Hey, what's going on, everybody? Happy Saturday. Welcome to another episode of Sit Down, Shut Up. Today we got... Who do we have? Where was the name? There it is. Keimusho Tsuma, I'm assuming. Said they're D1 Rashid. Let's get them on to see what they've been looking at and struggling with. So let me get them on. Hey, Keimusho, can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes. Yes.
Cool. So welcome in. So I normally ask like what kind of things you've been struggling with, coming into this session. I noticed you didn't put anything down, so I'll ask you now. What do you think you've been running into at D1?
So I don't know what I do. I don't know what to do. I play completely on vibes,
Okay.
and so I don't lab. I don't do any of that. I just go in a game and just YOLO it.
Right on.
So I really don't know where to go. I know I can't really anti-air. My neutral's kind of lame.
Okay.
I don't use all of my toolkits. There's a lot,
Okay.
you know.
Okay. Okay. Right on. So nothing wrong with being a vibes based player or feel based player. So what we used to call it back in the day, I suppose. You don't necessarily need to know, frame data or anything like that really to do well. And at least in this game, there might be some situations where that becomes super relevant, and maybe when you get higher level. But for the most part, like you can kind of just play by feel, right? And that's kind of the way the game is for a couple of different reasons, right? So cool. Your CFN is the same as your Discord here, or is it different?
Yes, no, it's the same.
All right, cool. Get you invited to this room. I'm gonna create the room here. Just a sec. All right, so invites. So, have you played any other fighting games before? Is this your or
This is my first.
first one, huh?
Like, I've played like some Street Fighter 2 when I was in the arcade back in the day,
Sure.
but I just picked up I just picked up Third Strike, so I've played a little bit of Third Strike,
Okay.
but pretty much just this.
Got it right. Got you right on. Okay, cool. So I invited you to custom room. So what we're gonna do, just for the show and let everyone know, what we're gonna do is we're basically gonna run a first to three. So we'll kind of go through that. I'll get a sense of kind of where you're at overall. After that, we'll do a little replay review. So we'll take a look at one of the replays against me, and then one of the replays you posted. Right. I haven't had a chance to look at them, or rather, I go into them kind of raw live too. It's a little more fun for me that way, I suppose. But yeah, we'll take a look at one of those as well, and see kind of where the differences are, right? Because I think that what might be happening, and it's something in general, right? What happens to a lot of players is that the way that, especially like in Diamond, um, the way that I might be able to beat you in this game might be different than how you're losing games in ranked, right? Just because I'm at a different level, right? So we'll do that really play review. After that, we'll do a little lab work, so we can take a look at a couple of different situations if I think it's necessary to look at. Also, I think you said you're mostly vibes based, so that's totally fine.
Yeah.
What we can do also is we can kind of talk about if you wanted to go into like how do I lab things, how do I figure out situations, we can do that too, right? And it doesn't have to be super like technical or anything, right? You can just get in there and try stuff. So we'll do a little lab work potentially if there's anything we want to talk about. And then after that, we'll do another first to three, so we can kind of see and run it back and see if like those changes may or may not have made sense, right? Cool. So go ahead and
All
queue
right.
up. And what we'll do is I'm going to deafen in Discord while we're doing this, mostly because I tend to talk a lot while I'm playing. But anyway, while we're doing that, so that I don't impact anything you're doing. Additionally, I may not rematch right away, so the timer might come down to like 1 or 2 seconds. Don't worry, I'm still here. I might be articulating thoughts or whatever on what might be happening. So
Yep.
yeah. All right, cool. So all right, so if you're ready, good luck.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only time sorry guys in chat, like I only check chat like during this section of the show usually. So don't worry, I appreciate you though, Japnu. Very coach, what's good? And anything bagel, thanks for the follow. Appreciate you guys. Oh, my controller's set up correctly. Let's find out. All right, so I haven't played this person before. I think they're from Australia, it looks like. They said they're... Okay. Alright, if I turn up the media pressure here, let's see what they do. Okay. Let's see what they do in the corner. Oh, nice. Are they reversal? Oh, okay, good. Okay, so, so what I'm noticing here is they said they're vibe based, right? They don't really lab anything. So my guess would be that. Uh-oh. I was gonna say my guess would be that they kind of run into situations where they don't really know why they're getting hit. Like right here, if they reversal. Whoa. Yep. Reversal again? Okay. A little bit of rollback, it's not a big deal though. Okay, so they don't really... and then he... Yo, Satoru, what's good, man? Thanks for the subs as per usual. So what I think is happening here is that because they're kind of been playing based on feel, what's happening here is they kind of press buttons and then they continue pressing when they probably shouldn't be pressing, and they keep getting hit, right? So if I get him to press a button here... Oh, he blocked that time. But you see they're kind of mashing or pressing in like situations that maybe don't make sense. Right? Oh, dropped it. Oh, it doesn't tech. Okay. Oh, nice. You know, the Jinrai is too good, man. Uh-oh. Alright, uses level 2, that's good. Uh-oh. I don't know what to deal with receive level 2. But that was pretty good, right? So what we're seeing again, I think, is that they understand how to play the game of SF6, but I think the fighting game fundamentals and some of the option select stuff may not be there. Right? Uh-oh. Autopiloted that. Interesting. So, again, I think there's a lot to talk about, I think. And we can kind of pick apart a couple of different things. Corner defense is probably the biggest one. And we can take a look at some of these neutral situations too, right? If I apply meaties, right? Yeah, see, I think it probably feels. Oh, what a whiff punish! Probably feels like for them, when they're in the corner like that, they tend to neutral jump, right? I think they only select a couple of different options, right? See, trying to get me to do something, commit to something. So, again, some of it I think is just they probably hit a wall where they're like, how do I get better? I think Diamond 1 is about where you probably need to start paying a little attention to, you know, not everything necessarily, but like the concept of turns and some of the, you don't have to know everything, but I think you have to have some idea of what to do. Let's see if they throw loops. I think they're going to keep going. Maybe not. Oh, backdash. Uh-oh. Nice. Clearly, they have the conversions down. I mean, there's a couple of drops, but might just be stream nerves. I don't know. Nice check. Nice. Oh. I thought that was going to be the jump. Nice. Oh, in level 3? That's actually pretty good. So, I mean, clearly they know how to play the game, right? I mean, this is going to burn me out, put me in pretty bad position. They're going to be pretty far ahead, right? Good chance of winning this one. Nice throw. Oh. Nice. Oh, that's unfortunate. So, I think, again, the way I'm kind of beating them right now in neutral is that they're not quite used to someone, I think, applying pressure the way I am and spacing the where I'm at, right? I think spacing in general at Diamond is probably a little bit loose. Oh, okay. Oh, what a whiff punish. Oh, yeah, I guess you played them before Splash, I'm assuming. I mean, again, nothing I'm seeing here is, like, completely unmanageable. I think they play pretty well. Might be a little bit of nerves or whatever, but let's bring it back on. Ask them what's going on. All right, Keimusho, what'd you think? How'd that feel for you?
I mean, it went as well as I expected it to go.
Yeah, I think you play all right. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think you play pretty well. You said you haven't played ranked in a while, and I think if you were to go into ranked right now, you probably do pretty well. The way I was kind of getting you here was that, and like you said, you're fully, feel based and all that. There might be some situations where, because you're kind of playing by feel, if someone understands the situation that you're like in neutral that's happening, they're able to kind of tag you, right? There are a couple situations where that happened where like you would press a button, Rashid's minus, and then I would just press my button and you were just pressing anyway, and it tagged you with like a counter hit, right? So situations like that we can kind of talk about. Again, I feel like you don't necessarily need to know everything about everyone, but what I do think is if you're going to use some of Rashid's tools, you should understand how they apply in certain situations, right? So let's take a look at one of the replays here. I really, really wish I could look at a replay in the custom room. So I'm going to share my screen in Discord. Hopefully you'll be able to see it. And there we go. Let's take a look at one of these guys. I think this one's probably a good one. Okay, yeah, you got one right on this one. All right, let's take a look. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Yeah, no, we're good.
Right, perfect.
We're golden.
Perfect. All right, so this was game 2. You managed to take a round here, so let's take a look at what was working for you, what wasn't, and go from there. All right, so trying to feel each other out here. All right, so this is one of those situations, right? You had used stand heavy kick a couple of times in the game. And Rashid is actually -5 after this, right? So when you say you haven't really looked at labs or anything like that, like how much do you understand about frame data in particular? I probably should ask that.
I know, I understand it.
Okay.
I can't remember it.
Okay.
So I'm just like, meh.
Okay. So if I use terms like minus, plus, like that, that's okay for you, right?
Yeah, no,
okay.
I'm good with that.
All right, cool. So in this situation here, right, you can kind of see Rashid you press the stand heavy kick, right? And on a block for Rashid, this is -5, right? So if you were to try to press another button after this crouching medium kick would counter hit you, right? Because it's coming out, 5 frames faster than whatever your your fastest button could be. So it didn't happen here, but there was a situation, I think game 1 maybe, where that happened, right? You would press this button, you're -5, you try to press another button, and then you got counter hit, right? So something to kind of add. You don't have to remember like the actual number. Like I actually remember that this is -5. I just know that it is fairly minus, right? So I can press a button that's a little bit slower and still be able to hit you. So when you're talking about like, understanding your own character, really, some of these situations where I think you're probably getting counter hit or you're getting hit and you're not really understanding why, I think this might be a situation that's happening where it's like you press a button and then you press another button behind it and the frame data doesn't really allow you to do that potentially, and then the other person just presses something and counter hits you, right? So you had done this earlier, which is why I did this, right? So I responded by taking my turn back and pressing crouching medium kick here, right? So we'll see if that happens through the rest of the set and the rest of this replay anyway. But I think like trying to move up, if you will, requires you to understand your own character's tools, right? Again, you don't have to understand all of mine, but all of Ken's or whatever. But you probably do need to know, what buttons you can press, how plus or minus you may not be. Or you can just go with something simple, right? It's like if I press stand heavy kick and it's blocked, I can't press another button. I'm unsafe, right? Or it's not my turn anymore, if you will, right? Those terms get thrown around a lot, right? So unless this hits, right, you can't really press another button, right? So move on from there. All right, so why did you get here? Here, let's take a look. All right. So block this. Right, here comes the drive rush. Right, and then I think you try to check. So you press a button.
To check you.
Yeah. So that's actually kind of tough, right? There's a little bit of a gap here. If you're gonna try to check, I think this will counter hit you in most cases, especially because I go for a jab, right? So because I hit confirm this, right, and saw that it was on block, I decided to go for a jab here. And I think this gap that's here is like only 1 or 2 frames. So this might not be enough time for you to press a button here, especially a medium button, right? Because Rashid's crouching medium punch, I think, is probably like 6 to 8 frames, something like that. Probably, I don't remember it, but it's something like that. And because of that, if you try to press that here, it's going to get counter hit like this, right? So typically on drive rush like this, you do want to either hold it by blocking. You can derev it, reversal it, right? But typically trying to check with a normal here can be very difficult, especially with a character like Ken, right? Like, the drive rush is pretty fast and all that stuff, right? So just have to be careful when you're checking drive rush, especially on block, like from this situation here. If it's raw, I think this will work fine. But if it was a drive rush cancel from like a low, that can be problematic for you to try to check, right? So. Okay. All right, good. So what I did notice is that you tended to block and then neutral jump in the corner here. What do you think about that defensive option in particular? Like, is this working for you right now in your rank games where you neutral jump?
I was expecting you to DP.
Okay.
But since none came, I just kept on doing it.
Okay, that's fair. Because I think from here, right, I could have DP'd maybe, right, if I was reacting fast enough. I had plenty of time to do it here. But I could also whiff this, right? Like, I pressed the button here, right? So I'm still in recovery until about here, right? So if you take my reaction time, like my own personal reaction time of, say, like 18 frames, right? I would have probably tried to input it like around here probably, right? And this might actually whiff, right? Like, if you come down without a button, I might, I might miss this DP, right? And I'm not sure. So I like not to do anything, right? That happens a couple of times in the set. I didn't really DP you for neutral jumping there, mostly because I was standing at a range where you can neutral jump and nothing will hit me, right? Like, from this range here, I don't think there's anything Rashid can really press that will hit me coming down from a neutral jump, right? So, some players may try to take advantage of this and walk up, right? And try to do something here. But I elect not to, because there's not really a reason for me to do that, right? Because you can neutral jump in the corner here all you want, and the situation doesn't really change, right? So that's why you don't really see, as you climb up in ranks, you don't really see high-level players just kind of neutral jumping in the corner like this. Because, one, it does open you up to get DP'd, right? If I decide to react, walk forward, just DP you here, that would be bad. The second thing is that the situation you're in doesn't fundamentally change, right? So you land, right? All right, we take a look at this situation here, right? in here, it's pretty much the same, right? I mean, I might move back a little bit just to make sure you don't hit me with anything. But you're still in the corner, and you still have to deal with this, right? So, you know, if you wanted to, if you think the opponent can't anti-air you, right? I would suggest trying to maybe jump at them if they're standing at this space, right? Because at least then, you know, you can see if I can anti-air you or not, right? I mean, just because I have this mastered gift here doesn't mean anything, right? Like, for all you know, I don't know what to anti-air, right? So, you know, you can try testing that if you wanted to jump here, right? It's just something else you can try. If you manage to cross up, perfect situation. Maybe they can't block it. Maybe, you know, whatever the case may be, but maybe you're out of the corner, right? So, all right. So what's happening here? Is I'm just trying to get you to press a button, right? So when we talk about like corner defense and stuff, how do your games normally go? Where you're kind of in this, you know, I'm sure you've been in this situation before. What do you normally think about when you're trying to get out of this or trying to get through it?
I see this thing. I don't think. I
Okay.
just react.
You feel?
All right.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Fair.
Yes. So like I can't really. It's gonna sound weird. I can't really answer a lot of questions because I don't know what I was thinking at this particular time. There was few times where I know what I'm planning to do.
Okay.
Here I'm just waiting for you to throw something since
Okay.
I'm in the precarious position where I can't really do
Gotcha.
anything. You know?
Okay.
You know?
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. Where I have to watch the replay after the fact to be able to articulate what was happening, right? So, let's just say from here you're trying to get out. I would imagine you're just trying to react to me doing something, get out of the corner, right? So let's go from here.
Right.
All right. So I think you just get hit here because I managed to land the stand heavy punches. You're like trying to move. Yeah, you're moving forward. And I hit you. It's fine. Nice. Oh, there you go. That was pretty good, right? So, managed to catch you walking back. Good. And then drop the combo, but I wasn't ready, right? Alright, do you go through that? Okay, so let's take a look at that sequence right here. What happened and why did I get hit, right? Alright, so if you see, right, the crouching medium punch is +2, right? And then I try to press something and get clipped, basically. It looks like I tried to press something, right? Let's see. Yeah. So I try to press like a stand medium punch for whatever reason, and I get clipped here, right? So this is a situation where I'm sure by feel you've just been pressing this, and then you press this, and then it hits people, right?
Yeah.
Happens all the time, right? So that's the reason why, right, behind it is that you are plus here. Like if I press something, you know, that's longer range or takes a little bit of time and you press this, it's going to hit, right? When this stops working is probably when you have to pay attention, but as this is working, continue to do it, right? Not a big deal. Right? Good conversion. Okay. Go for a setup here. Overhead. I don't block, right? Good. Alright, so right here, let's see if you press. Nope. Okay, good. Okay, good Jin ride. That was nice, right? So the neutral jump here catches me pressing a button. Work down. You can probably kill me from here, right? Oh, wait, no. Oh, yeah, you do. Because I can't deal with Rashid level 2. So I think that round overall actually went pretty well for you, right? So you managed to catch me doing something I shouldn't have been doing. And now we kind of have an idea why, right? Like what was actually happening behind the scenes. So the thing is you can use that knowledge to kind of bait people into doing things, right? So if they're continuing to press in that plus situation for you, then you can continue pressing that crouching medium kick drive rush, right? It's going to work every time, right? But when that stops working, even though you're plus, at that point, then we'll have to try to figure out what to do from there, right? So moving on from there. See, that was a good check, right? Unfortunately, it was a trade. And you beat me in the press, right? Good. Tech. Yeah, so see right here. Right. I just continue blocking it. This should actually... Is this not combo?
No, if it's, I believe if it's a blocked crouching medium drive rush, if I light punch, it's a block string.
Oh, okay.
I can't think quick enough
Okay.
to get that out, so I just default to what I normally do.
Gotcha. So you just press it. If it hits counter hit or punish counter, or if it hit in general, you just do this. I think that's fine. As an autopilot, again, if it once it stops working is when you have to kind of consider what you're gonna do next. But if it's working for you now, just continue doing it. Honestly, people are gonna run into this a lot. It's like what happens a lot against Rashid is right here, right? So this actually hit me, even if it's on block. What ends up happening is a lot of people will try to back up, right? So like I'm sure this is happening for you in games right now. You press that crouching medium punch, it's blocked, and you just press this and it catches them like every time, right? And that's what's happening, is that most people will try to back up after that pressure, right? So, all right, okay. Okay, so Rashid stand heavy kick, if I'm not mistaken here. Screw the frame data. Let's just talk about it. Rashid's stand heavy kick is kind of slow, right? It takes a little time to start up here, right? So typically, when we're talking about like the neutral game here, if you will, right? And this is something that I kind of wanted to point out. I know it's been a little unstructured, but something I wanted to point out here in particular. Normally, normally I talk about like frame data and all that stuff, but let's forget all that. Let's talk about this situation here where we're standing at this distance, right? Typically, as players, as characters get closer to each other, you typically want to be pressing faster buttons, right? So in the game, normally, right, the faster buttons typically have shorter range, and the slower buttons typically have longer range, right? So like Rashid's stand heavy kick goes way further than say his jab, right? His stand light punch or crouch light punch, right? So this space here, like when you look at it, like it means that the advantage of the bigger button, the range, is no longer relevant really, right? Because you're already in range to hit them. So what this means is that as you kind of go through your games, and I don't know if you're going to start doing replay analysis, probably not, because, it's maybe not something you're interested in, and you don't have to, right? But if we look at some of the games, and we look at why you might be getting hit, or what's happening, why you're not able to open somebody up, or something like that, like why something isn't working, a lot of the times it's because the space you're standing at between the two, on the space between two characters, means that there are specific buttons that you want to press, right? Typically, again, they're the faster, shorter range buttons because, again, the disadvantage of the faster button is negated because you're close enough to hit them, right? So what actually happens here is I'm pressing a crouching medium kick, which might be more appropriate for this range versus your stand heavy kick, right? I also press a little sooner than you do. But what happens here is that you get hit out of the startup of your move, right? So now if you had pressed a faster button here, or pressed earlier, this might not have happened, right? But because we're standing at the range we're standing at, we're both in neutral, I kind of just press to see what will happen, and I drive rush behind it, right? So something to keep in mind as we go through the sets, like as we review this game, and then maybe one of the rank or replays you sent me, is let's see what buttons you end up pressing in these kind of neutral situations, right? We just have to pay attention to the space between the characters and, what buttons you're picking, right? So, go from there. All right. Good, just block. All right, back to neutral jumps. And then I just DP you here, right? So, like, that's kind of what I was expecting to happen when, like, when you see Rashid's doing that jump, sometimes they'll do the wall jump. So I'm just kind of waiting for that to happen, and then I just DP the jump in, right? So, all right, and then, so at this stage of the game, in the previous round, you had actually elected to do a lot of drive reversals, right? So, kind of a reversal option on wake up here in the corner. So I kind of changed how I was applying my offense to just kind of blocking and being a little more passive and waiting for this, right?
Okay.
I'll make a mistake here and burn out. And drop my combo, right? So that's probably more in line with what you were thinking will happen, right? As you try to jump, like I haven't really been anti-airing you for this, and then I get you here, right? And then you go for a tech here as we both land, and unfortunately I was out of range, and then you get clipped for it, right? So again, I think the main takeaway that I want to highlight from this one is really like some of the neutral situations where you might be pressing a button that may not make sense, right? Because at diamond is when I think these offenses become really, really airtight, right? So they, characters and players at this level tend to have an understanding of, a little bit of frame data, or at least they understand when they can press and can't press for a lot of the cases, other than, those weird esoteric cases or against Kim, right? Because you never know when to press against her. But most players at this level run a very competent offense, right? So if you try to jab them or check them out of certain spots, or they try to frame trap you and you're getting hit by it, that's what's happening, right? Is they understand at least that aspect, right? So, all right, so what happened here? Okay, so you just landed a jump in. I block it. Whiffs. That's unfortunate. So this is actually kind of close. I think, like, I'm not necessarily mad that you try to press that there on that space. But you don't do anything after, right? Oh, okay. What? What happened here? Oh, okay. So you autopiloted here, right? So you press the crouch, you press the stand medium punch, it whiffed. And then you press crouch and medium kick again, right? So here I think it's a little bit tough to autopilot that on whiff because I can act, right? And that's what happens here. If I block that and I'm -2, then I shouldn't do that, and your crouch and medium kick makes sense, and maybe it gets blocked, maybe it doesn't, but you're able to drive rush cancel behind it and get a mix up. But because it whiffed and you kind of just autopiloted this, that's what caused you to get hit here. So something to maybe think about is I wouldn't call it necessarily hit confirming, like in the traditional sense of like do some buttons and then cancel in a special. But you should be aware of when your moves whiff, right? And try not to autopilot into crouch and medium punch and the crouch and medium kick if the crouch and medium punch whiffs, right? Like there's plenty of time to see what happened here, right? You see the whiff, it doesn't hit anything, so you whiffed. You could just block here or wait, right? Or press something faster, right? Because you press a crouching medium kick, which might be a little bit slow-ish. Maybe the range makes sense here, but you did just whiff a button, right? And that's what's kind of scary in this game, if you whiff a button here. So, okay, moving on from there, you get hit. All right, go for a setup with the stand medium punch. Okay, and then so you can see what my kind of approach to how you're playing here is, since you've elected to do a lot of active things on defense so far, like you've been reversaling and waking up with buttons, I kind of just back up, right, and apply pressure by standing here, right? It makes you feel like you have to do something. So, okay, so you try to check there, gets hit. All right, so apply meaty here. It whiffs again. Nice whiff punish. All right. So I did notice that you did tend to go for that option where you would dash after the charge fireball.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would just derev through it, right? And this happened a couple of times. So you don't really... When you see something like this, right, and this is totally a feel thing too, actually, if you see the opponent doing the same thing over and over again in a situation, consider that they're going to do it a third or fourth time, right? So if I did this twice, and I think this is maybe the second or third time I did this to you, if every time you throw a charged fireball and you dash behind it, right, because you get a knockdown, you charge your fireball, you get to throw it, and you get the enhanced run or whatever. If I've been dereving against the fireball, like in this case you see, right, I actually just right here charge fireball, right? I have to deal with that, right? That's gonna I can't do anything about that. And then you do an enhanced run, right? You did this the same time, and I reacted the same way. Consider that I'm gonna do this again, right? So you can
I saw the parry, and I was hoping to get in before you could react to the throw.
Okay.
That I was trying to get in for.
Gotcha. So, okay. And I think that makes sense, right? Because if you go against someone that doesn't derev that scenario, that's a punish counter throw every time, right? So, yeah, if you see that situation change for you, though, consider doing something else here, right? So I think if you run here, and don't go for a throw, I'm not 100% sure, but if you don't go for a throw here, do you think it'll, let's see. Right, so if I take over from here and just block, right? So that's a -6 situation now, right? So you'll be able to punish my D-Rev, right? So that's an adjustment that you can make based on feel, right? Because you see the opponent doing that thing, you assume they're going to do it again, or you feel like they're going to do that option again, and then you do something else to try to bait it, right? So that could be something you start to think about as you play games. Like if you're playing against someone that seems to always do one response to whatever action you're taking, you could probably try to change it up and see if that hits them or not, right? Because the ultimate snowball effect of that is, let's say that you did that. I parry the fireballs, right? Or fire the multi-hit fireball. You dash up, I D-rev, you block it and punish me for it. Now the next time that situation happens again, what happens, right? Now I have to think about what I'm doing on defense, right? And now you have the opportunity to mix me up. Maybe you go for throw again, or maybe you go for like a jab, or maybe you do the jump, the arc jump thing, right? Like you can change up what you're doing out of that, and it forces the player that's holding the pressure to have to guess, right? Have to make a defensive decision, and then from there you'd be able to mix them up and hopefully open me up, right? Like if you block that, that's a -6 punish. You know, you have meter, or even just take a 6-frame punish, whatever that is for Rashid, right? So you get derevved here, right? So I noticed you were neutral jumping as I approach. So this time I did something a little less committal with the step kick and able to block. But you can see, I think your autopilot takes over here, right? And then you just press and go for it, right? Again, this is not a bad thing to do in, you know, in the grand scheme of things. You have meter, right? Like I was kind of low on meter, so maybe this driver is fine. You go for the mix up. But you do have to be careful about your autopilot, right? If you notice that the things that you're just kind of going through and doing without really thinking about it is starting to get blocked or dealt with, then you have to kind of think about, oh, maybe there's something else I can be doing in those situations, right? Like if this happens right here, right? Maybe instead of going for the crouch medium kick, drive rush, maybe you just walk up throw. Maybe you walk up jab. Or maybe you back up, right? Maybe you do something else, right? I think, like, does this happen for you a lot? I mean, I know I'm asking questions, you know, but like when you jump and then if it's blocked, do you tend to just press right after and it hits?
Not always. But you know, I feel I feel that I'm inconsistent. So one game I may do this. Like we'll take me running through the tornado.
Okay.
Other games I just jump.
Okay.
You know, so I'm like, I haven't got a certain way I always do things, you know. I will change it up, but I won't change it up during a game. I'll just change it up for a game.
Okay. So like
that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I think that does, right? So it's like you go into a game, you kind of have an idea. Maybe it's based on the character you're playing against, right? It's like, oh, all Kimberlys do this thing, or all Kens do that thing, or whatever. You see the character, and you kind of subconsciously go, oh, I'm gonna play it this way because Kens tend to do X, Y, Z, right? I think that's pretty common, and I think it's not necessarily a bad thing because a lot of the characters do, for better or worse, kind of have their traits and the way people play them do kind of align sometimes. But yeah, I mean that's fine. I was just curious how this interaction typically goes for you because it looked like you were just kind of pressing it, right? So anyway, move on from there, right? So situation here, and you just kind of back up, right? Right, you get with punish there. Okay. Alright, so there's that neutral jump getting anti-aired, even though it traded.
So I actually knew what I was thinking here. Because I'm burnt out. I'm almost dead. I'm waiting for a drive rush. Oh, sorry, a DI.
Yeah.
Here, yes.
Yeah.
But I don't have level 3 yet. So I believe that's why I threw a fireball to build it. And then when it was coming, I fumbled the inputs and never came out. Oh, that was the kick that got me. So here is where I was starting to, and I just didn't. I fumbled.
Quite come out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. If you're, you know, I think that's a pretty common thing also, as you're burned out in the corner, you have to wait for the DI, defend against the DI as well as everything else is happening. you want to try to buffer behind it, and then you just end up getting hit. Yeah, I just went for it there. It is what it is. But yeah, I think what I want to say here is that I think against, like, as you climb up more and more, sometimes, you know, again, totally feel best player is totally fine, but I think there might need to be some semblance of a bit more of a solid game plan around that, right? What I did see was, you know, you managed to land hits in neutral, you're able to do your combo, and you're able to have some follow up, some Oki after, right? Just the issue here, I think, was that when you were playing against me, my spacing might be a little better, so you were getting hit in situations that maybe you weren't normally getting hit, and then the offensive side where I'm applying pressure kind of force you to start reversaling more, and then I just adjusted to beat that, right? So like, oh, he's doing a lot of D-revs, you know, on wake up, or some sort of aggressive option on wake up. So I just started being a little more passive, right? And that was baiting a lot of the response from you, and then I would just punish that, right? So let's take a look at one of the replays you sent me, and maybe I'll have a little bit more feedback from there. It might be a little bit more relevant to the games you've been playing recently. So
yeah, I believe it was a D3 Bison.
okay.
We played 5 games. He won the first 3 games.
Okay, and this is one of them, right? Get to
Yeah.
work. All right, cool. So yeah, while I'm bringing that up, so what do you think so far? How's that? I know the feedback's a little bit unstructured right now, but I'm trying to kind of meet you where you want to hear things, I guess, because you don't really
no,
care
this
about that.
Yeah, this is good.
Okay.
This is good.
All right, cool.
Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm gonna watch this over and over
Mm-hmm.
to hammer it in. You know, because
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the VOD will be up, so you watch it as many times as you need to. You watch it 2x, so you don't have to go through all the. You don't have to waste so much time about watching it. Okay, cool. So let's take a look at this Bison replay. Looks like you win the first round, so let's take a look. So this is against a D3, so you know, I don't think they're probably within the right range of an opponent that's about probably your skill level. You do play pretty well overall, so you know, if you were to spend more time in ranked, you'd probably be D4, D5 if you were to just play. So let's take a look here. All right. So doesn't anti-air the jump in. Right, so what happened here? So that's your normal, like, kind of plus, and how'd you get hit, right? So if we take a look at this situation, what's happening here, right? So even though you're +1, and I'll talk a little bit of frame data here because it'll kind of highlight what I'm talking about. So even though you're plus here, you elect to press a button that's a little bit slower, right? So let me just check, actually, because this to make sure that I'm not lying to you here. So crouch medium punch.
Dude, lie to me. I won't know.
Who knows, right? Okay, so I'll get into numbers a little bit here, and I promise this will be the last time I do it. From here on out, I'll just say safe or unsafe. Let's take a look at what happens, right? So after this crouching medium punch, right? Rashid is +1, right? So on block, that means you're first to act, right? The issue is then you press crouching medium kick right after this, right? Right there, right? So crouching medium kick is what you press after this, right? So what Bison presses here is actually a jab, right? So Bison's crouching light punch, if I'm not mistaken, is actually his 4-framer, right? So let me just make sure. Right, this is a 4-frame move, right? So if you look at the frame meter here, right? You're first to act, so you press your crouching medium punch again, it looks like. Let's see. So crouching medium punch, you press it a second time, right? So because you press it a second time, let me just make sure I'm not lying to you, right? So 6 frame, right? Okay. Right, so right here, you are first to act, right? You are +1. So you press your button here, your 6-framer, and Bison here presses his 4-framer. Oh no! Oh yeah, well, there we go. Right. So they press their 4-frame, right? So technically, right, because you're +1 here, mashing against this means normally you would be able to frame trap them by pressing a 4-frame button of your own, right? You would just get a counter hit of some kind, right? I don't play Rashid, so I'm not 100% sure on what you would get out of this. But if you think about the situation here, because you're first to act, this means that whatever button that Bison is pressing is coming out 1 frame slower, right? But the issue is he presses a button that comes out faster than yours normally, right? So he presses a 4 frame to get your 6 frame, right? So even though he's 1 frame later than you, it's still going to come out before yours does, right? So the reason I bring this up is because you have to be careful about autopiling mediums into mediums against players like this that will mash against anything, right? So if you notice this happening over and over again, then you don't need to press the second button here. You got to be careful about pressing that, or you press something faster, right? So go from there, right? So Bison here is -5, right? And then you press the medium kick here, which is slower than I think his recovery here, right? So he is able to block, right? But you do pretty well here, right? So you press this button, and then Bison elects to press the slower button, and you press the faster button. That's counter hit, right? Right. See the conversion, right? Setup. Need overhead's blocked, right? And then how did you get hit here? Oh, you went for a throw. All right, so let's take a look at this. So we're both recovering after that, right? There's the advantage, right? So Bison is plus here, so they elect to press right away, and you try to go for a throw of some kind, right? So you have to be, again, like, you have to be careful on doing an action when you're minus and it's not your turn, right? Again, because players like this that will mash every opportunity will beat you every time, right? Because they're just pressing because they don't, maybe either they know that it's their turn, or maybe they don't, but then they press, right? And this happened the previous interaction as well, right? So you landed a hit that you were plus on, and they pressed, right? They got rewarded with a counter hit. Similarly here, I don't know if this, I'm actually not sure if this guy really knows if he's plus or minus. Maybe he does, but it doesn't matter because the few times that he has been the situation, he elected to press something right away. So when you're minus and playing against a character like, or a player like this that mashes at every opportunity, you really can't get away with some of this turn stealing kind of fake pressure stuff, right? Because they're checking you every opportunity. Going for a throw, especially here, would really only work if the player on this side is being really, really passive, right? So like they block that overhead, they do nothing, and you just throw them. That would probably work. But if they're pressing every opportunity like this, then you can't really do that, right? You do the overhead, your turn is effectively over unless you want to reversal them or do some shenanigans or whatever. But you can't really press here, right, after that situation. Yeah. There is something else you can do, just to show that it is a thing. Right, so after this overhead, you're -3 here, right? So, right here. Let me just get this startup so I have enough time to react. Alright, so take a look at this. You're player 1, right?
Yeah.
Right, so in a -3 situation, you can time a parry here, and it should... Oh. Right? You'd be able to parry out of that, right? Now, if you were better at the game than I am, you would be able to perfect parry that too, right? -2 situation. After the recovery, you would just perfect parry. You would parry after that, and if the opponent is taking their turn back aggressively, then you would perfect parry it, right? You can also hold parry there, and you'll be able to kind of deal with whatever buttons they press, and you'll parry it, right? So something to consider if you're playing against a player like this who just presses at every opportunity they have, you can try sprinkling in parries there, right? Especially in -3. Oh yeah, I'll talk about it. Especially in minus situations like this, you can parry here, right? And if you are good at timing it for yourself, right, you get used to your character's recovery frames and all that. You could perfect parry against that, and you would land a perfect parry here, right, on the jab. So your punish there would typically be like a throw or some kind, but you would basically discourage them from trying to do what they just did, right? Because they would go, oh, I'm going to press my button and get perfect parry every time. that sucks, right? And you don't want to do that anymore. So something to consider. I wouldn't. Again, I don't know if you want to incorporate that right away or anything like that, but something for you when you look at the VOD later as you're going through this, like, oh, there's a situation like that. Bring that up. So,
Right.
yeah, so like here, right? So he jumps, right? So again, that's because the CPU just doing whatever the next moves were. But you saw that I perfect parried that jab, and you can act there, right? So most players, when they see that perfect parry, they'll maybe try to delay tech or something like that. But you'd be able to throw them typically. He jumped, so that's why it didn't work. But if they just continued blocking, you'd be able to get a throw there. So anyway. Right? So you get counter hit, unfortunately, because you go for the throw. Right? It doesn't really confirm or convert anything, so not really a huge loss. I mean, the interaction wasn't great, but you didn't really take a scissor kick or anything like that, get knocked down. So you still have good position here. Right? So the autopilot works for you again. Right? Crouching medium punch. Catches the jump. The guy's not blocking. Right? Okay, good conversion. Right, so setup, right? Not mistaken?
Yeah, I missed it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I missed it.
All right, no worries. But, I mean, I like the idea, right? So you get him with this. Right? Go for a setup here. I think you're supposed to cancel that first hit, right? If I'm not mistaken.
It was, yeah. I just it's just for me. It's a super tight link and
yeah, no worries. Right? I was actually curious here because I want to say that's what I see, but anyway, no big deal. The point is, I like the idea though, right? Is that you manage to land your hit and you go for a setup, right? That's textbook, right? Perfect. All right, you back up here. You press this. Okay, so here's another situation, right? So from right here, right, this is really, really close to be pressing a heavy button, right? Like, if you look at how much time it takes for this to come out, right? 13 frame startup, right? So if the Bison had been doing what they've been doing the rest of the game and just tried to mash a jab, that would have caught you out of the startup of that, right? So, like, again, the situation here meant that you can press a faster button and you'd get a same, if not better, effect. Like, if you press crouching medium punch here, you'll probably hit him, right? Like, this is close enough for that. And you get a plus situation, right? Now you're +1. So if they try to do something, you could try to do your crouching medium kick after, like autopilot through that. Maybe you catch them. But instead what happens here is they don't do anything and they block this, but you're -5. So you're minus here, punishable, technically. And it's kind of close. Now, I think Bison may not be able to actually do anything from here, and that's why they elect to press this button. But against characters with a button that can punish that could happen to you, right? So you have to kind of be careful there.
Okay.
It's just a button selection thing. So, like, again, what I was talking earlier, like, when you look at the spacing that you're standing at, consider what buttons to press, right, and what not to press. Right. So +4, nice. All right, perfect. I think that was pretty good. Let's take a look. Perfect, right? So the Bison is minus after the overhead. You take a turn back with a 4-frame move or jab. Perfect, right? They block it. No big deal, right? Now their pressure is stopped and you get to chain, right? Unfortunately, you get counter hit because you... What happened after this?
Probably crouching
medium kick. Yeah, okay. So, yeah. Normally on jabs, right, you have to chain them. Otherwise, your turn is kind of over if you just jab once. If you leave a large enough gap against a player like this that likes to mash at every opportunity, you can get counter hit if you try to press slower buttons here, right? So trying to steal your turn here by pressing through this and all that will definitely work against passive players. But again, against someone that's mashing like this, it's hard, right? So instead what you can do is you can continue your light chain to try to frame trap. I'm not sure if they were mashing here. Let's see. Right, so if I think the chain is this, right? Right. So I think they might have not pressed elected to press right away. Let's see. All right, so it looks like if you chain. So I guess here, if we look at the what I was trying to do was see if they were pressing in the middle of that, and it looks like they actually like to press a little bit later. So you block this, they block, and then there's actually a little bit of time where they don't press. They don't press right away, but they do seem to want to, right? Because they press right then and there at that point. So there was actually a little bit of a gap here. So I wonder if you had actually pressed your button timely, it might have actually worked. So let's see. I'm just curious here because if they're doing something like this on purpose, then it's a specific defensive option they're choosing, which is called the delay jab. But let's see. Yeah. So your idea actually would have worked. It's just that you were a little bit late on pressing it. So.
Oh yeah.
Well, it worked the first time. Yeah. So you could have gotten the driver's chair if you had pressed, immediately, but no big deal. You miss it there. The idea would have worked, so that's cool. If they had mashed, it would have beaten you, but if they did a delay jab here, like they actually timed their jab to be a little bit late, then what you were doing would have actually beat them. But it looks like what they were doing instead was they're trying to beat a walk-up throw, right? Assuming that's what they were doing, so... And then it looks like what happens is you get hit, you hold back, right? And then you get hit as you're walking back. The Bison doesn't convert, looks like. But I'll highlight this situation because this happens a lot, right? Something you'll probably start to notice more and more in your games is after something happens that is blocked, or even on hit, right? You get hit here. Your instinct as a player is to back up, right? You're holding back because you don't want to deal with anything that's coming. You're trying to block whatever the case may be, but you want to create space. A lot of players will actually notice this, and they'll press their crouching medium kick, like cancelable one, immediately after this, or they'll delay a little bit, but they'll try to catch you walking back. This happens a lot. So you got to be careful when you're in this situation here, right? When you're in that situation here, you just gotten hit or whatever. It's usually, what I tell people is it's usually better to just down back here, right? Don't try to create extra space. You just got hit or whatever. But if you continue blocking here, you block this, right? Maybe they driver's cancel and you have to deal with that mix-up. But if you had blocked this, then the situation resets to neutral, right? You block it, you back up a little bit, space is created automatically because of the pushback. And now you're not in the situation, you don't take damage, right? The Bison doesn't convert here. And maybe they're paying attention, right? Like, if they drive rush, they burn out, So kudos to them for their meter management. But, again, if you just block this, then the situation goes back to neutral. And you haven't gotten hit, right? So, something to think about. Okay, scissor kicked. Then the the double sack special, or the rank special, double jump. Alright. Nice slide. Ooh, what happened there?
I went for the overhead.
Oh, then it gets checked by the crouching medium punch. Okay. Nice. So let's take a look at that situation here. How'd that land? Alright, so the whiffs. Right. Alright, you press this. Alright. Okay. So another situation where the Bison was... So this is the situation in reverse, right? So if we look at what happens here, even though the Bison is their plus and it's their turn, they press a very slow button in the stand heavy punch, right? This is like a 1,000,000 frame startup, right? Like, Bison stand heavy punch takes forever to come out. So the reason this worked here was because the Bison decided to press a heavy button in a space that didn't make sense, right? So you press a button that does make sense. But I will say that it's kind of tough as you climb to do this, because players may not press their big button in a space that doesn't make sense as you climb up, right? So the situation we're looking at here, the Bison's being punished for doing that, right? They're going for this big heavy button, and even though they're plus to some degree, that advantage doesn't matter if the move that your opponent presses is faster, right? So get a conversion. Setup. Oh, that was sick. that was sick. So that was good, right? He went for a DI for whatever reason, and then you beat him. So that was good. Okay, on his footsies, both trying to establish some space. Good parry. Let's see what the follow up is. Good. Nice. So this is good. Like this is good stuff, right? Back throw. Rashid's back throw doesn't do any kind of crazy corner carry, but still good. Walk up. They try to press something on their wake up, and you tag them, right? Okay. So again, this is a situation where the Bison should not have necessarily been pressing because it's not their turn to press, right? And they actually get clipped for whatever it is they were trying to do, right? Which was, it looks like they're trying to back up. It doesn't counter hit here, but it looks like they were about to press a button, right? They're trying to back up, press a button. So anyway, you clipped them, perfect. And again, the situation is they just got hit, they want to back up, right? So you go for the low, and it tags them, perfect. I like the idea, right? That blows up delay tech all day, so that's good stuff. All right, now we're in a situation where you have a huge advantage, right? You have Bison in the corner. His only real reversal options are like level 1, level 2, or D-Rev, right? So you can kind of play neutral here, unfair neutral, and kind of bully them in the corner. So let's see what happens. All right, aggressive option, good throw. Go for the throw loop. Okay, so another situation, right? Too close for the button. Same effect. Yeah.
I assume people after 2 throws are going to do something different because why would they take the 3rd throw? So I was banking on a tech.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I autopilot because it would have popped him up if he would have teched.
Yeah, or if he had pressed the jab or something here, right? Like if they tried to challenge you, yeah. So the wish punish, as it's affectionately known, space trap with punish, whatever you want to call it. This is actually fine, I think. It's just that it can be tough when opponents notice you doing that. They'll start jumping or doing something else. Actually, I think it's totally fine. Right? If you were reading tech and just went for the button, I think it's okay. Because at worst, right, they block it. Again, Rashid's -5 here, so it's kind of risky. But if you just went for that, I think that's fine, right? The better solution there would be to react to what they do. So throw tech is typically very reactable, and so is parry. So if you had just backed up, 1, 2, right? Right. So something like that, right? And again, you don't have to do this. Like you can just continue autopiloting and send heavy kick in that situation. I think you'll mostly be fine. The reason for that is because the pushback and the space that you kind of occupy there, if you press it at the timing you've been pressing it, I think even if like you'd probably be safe most of the time, right? For most 5 framers probably can't reach you from there. So totally okay to do that. But if you wanted to be able to punish the parry as well as the throw tech, it's probably better to react, right? And the reason for that is the shimmy that you do by just backing up and waiting actually beats multiple options, right? So if the opponent decides to throw tech, you can react to that with your stand heavy kick and then get your conversion. If they decide to parry, you can just walk up and throw them. If they decide to jump, you'd actually be able to DP them, right? So if you autopiloted the stand heavy kick like you did and the Bison elected to jump, they may be able to cross you up here, right? So if I take a look at that same situation with the Bison, and I hold up forward, right, you get crossed up, right? I don't actually know Bison's conversion there, but we see the situation there, right? If you autopilot that, you actually lose to another option, not like the forward jump, that you would have been able to cover had you tried to react to what was happening, right? So something to consider, especially as like a field-based player. Like you said, they're going to do something different on the 3rd throw. So I should be ready for what I think they're going to do or what options they could present in that situation, right? So I feel like they're going to do something other than block. What could that be? And how can I beat as many of those things as possible, right? Now, again, there's a little more onus on you because you have to react to that and you can't just autopilot it. But I think in the longer term, you'll get better as you do this more and more, it'll become easier to just kind of autopilot the reacting to what's happening, right? Like you shimmy, oh, I see the jump, all right, DP, right? Because you can, or jump back, anti-air, whatever, right? Oh, I see the throw, I can use my stand heavy kick at that point because it is reactable. Oh, I see the parry, I just walk up the throw, right? So now you're beating multiple options, right? So
Okay. Makes
go from there. So player control, make sure I don't do that wrong. All right, so, and then the Bison does a very aggressive option here with the crouching medium punch drive rush into throw, right? Get back thrown. Yep, sucks. You're in the corner now. D-rep, right? Works. If the opponent hadn't been really respecting that option from you, keep doing it, right? Good slide. Overhead. Oh, how do you lose this game? You're so far ahead.
Oh, trust me. It is. There's a reason why I picked this guy.
Yeah.
Because the inconsistency I spoke about is going to show up here.
Okay. And I think some of the autopilot too, right? This had worked twice, so you went for the third time. The Bison elects to just block. You're pretty minus here, so you take a big punish, right? Or you would if they had decided to go for a big punish. You take a punish here, though. And then now let's see what happens. Because you're in the mix-up here, right? This is Bison's turn right here, right? So let's see what happens. You get frame trapped, right? So try to press when it's Bison's turn, right? It's very difficult to do so because he is in a situation where he can kind of throw you, right? Like from here. He has a strike throw mix, right? So he elects to jab and beats you. But you can also throw, right? So if I... Right. So because that's the case in the strike throw there, it makes it very difficult to try to mash out of that, right? Try to press a button there. Because your button will lose to both strike and throw, right? So you have to kind of think about what the Bison has been doing in that situation to try to defend it. Most people will delay tech here. So if I go back to the situation right here, right? So you just gotten hit by the scissor kick. Right? You would delay tech through that, right? So if the Bison elected to throw in that situation, you would tech it, right? And if they strike, you would block it, right? Now, of course, this loses the shimmy and all that stuff, but that's Bison's game, right? He gets to have that +2 situation in your face, and you have to guess, right? So,
yeah, I used to delay tech a lot, and then it just got me eating a lot of
a lot of
so
shimmies.
Then I stopped. Yeah. So
yeah, it's tough. It's an option that beats a lot of things, but the weaknesses are really clear, and people are able to punish it very, very hard, right? Like when you probably have a really good punish counter for shimmy too, right? Stand heavy kick starter, right? So it's a defensive decision you have to make, right? When you think about what the way that I try to think about it is like, what are you losing to, and what's the worst that can happen, right? So in this situation here, likely if I delay tech here, maybe I take a level 3. I probably don't die though, right? So I'll take a $5,000, $6,000 damage combo, but I probably don't die here, right? So you have to consider if you're gonna delay tech or not, and I think like not delay teching is probably better most of the time. If you had just elected to block here too, that would be fine, right? So if the Bison has not been really throwing you in that situation, and they just keep going for like these strikes in that situation to try to frame trap you, then I think just blocking is totally fine, right? That's a perfectly acceptable response as well, right? Because if I do that, right? Right, so anyway. Fortunately, you get hit, but the Bison doesn't convert, right? Either they missed it, or I'm not really sure if that's a conversion for Bison, whatever. But Bison, this move here it's his turn technically here, right? So you get, like right as I say that, you counter hit, right? So again, like you don't have to know how plus or how minus moves are. I think typically speaking, at least the way that I approach it, like let's say you don't want to learn frame data, you don't want to go and sit through all the spreadsheets or whatever. What I would do is, as I'm playing games, I would try to pay attention to what moves are hitting me, counter hit, right? So like they press a button, I block it, and then when I press my button, I get counter hit, right? Those moves that precede the counter hit, those are the ones you probably want to pay attention to, right? You don't necessarily need to know how plus or how minus. You just need to know that it is, right? Then when you get into like the higher levels and you're ready to kind of pay attention to those things, or it's something you want to get into, then you can take a look at like how to optimize punishes and whatnot. But realistically speaking, as long as you know that you can't press against this normally, you'll be perfectly fine, right? Don't need to know that it's +1 or it could be +10 for all you care. But if you're not pressing anything behind this, like you don't challenge this because, you know, it's not your turn technically, you know, then you'll probably do fine. It's when the Bison decides to do something else in the situation is where you have to pay attention, right? So like the Bison here presses immediately, right? Or yeah, they press pretty much immediately, right? They press their button. They probably know their plus, so they press their button immediately. And this will frame trap pretty much anything you do, right? Well, it would have traded a 4-frame. Actually, let's see. They press something kind of big here, right? In a +1 situation. So, yeah, I think you could have. Yeah. Oh, that's not the right button, is it? Yeah. So. What I'll say here is that normally, if the Bison decided to press something that would frame trap a 4-frame, then it would have stopped you from jabbing. They went for kind of a bigger button here, which I would consider a little bit greedy, right? And they're kind of banking on you, also kind of being a little bit greedy and trying to steal the turn back from them, right? So your minus here, you shouldn't press, but you can press if you want to. There's no like rule that says you can't press a button there. It's just that they're in a situation where if you do press and they keep it tight here, you're gonna get counter hit, right? So anyway, that all said, right? Normally, right? Can't press here, right? Continue blocking, totally fine. If you had mashed a 4-frame here though, and decided to do that, you would have traded with them. So what I'm going to add here is that if you are going to choose to mash a button in this situation, mash your 4-frame button, or mash your fastest button, because you're close, right? Like, look at the distance here. Right?
Yeah, so this is gonna sound really weird. I got to platinum with just mashing light punch.
I believe it.
So like,
I believe it.
There was a lot to break that habit. So like, it's this whole thing of me doing this has been breaking a habit and then trying to revert to some of that habit back without re-going completely what I used to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I totally get you. And it's kind of funny in fighting games that that's the case, right? Like, we always tell people, oh, don't reversal. Like, when you're starting out, don't reversal and wake up, just block, right? Block and punish. Don't mash things, right? Don't do that. And then as you climb up the ranks, you get told, oh, you should do this sometimes, or you should do that sometimes. But I think the real difference is that as you climb up in rank and you get more familiar with the game and you become a better player, more well-rounded player, and you understand more of the, you know, the 2D fighting game fundamental pieces, it becomes more like you understand why those things do work or don't work. So once you understand the rules, you can know when to break them, right? So even if you're -1, you know, or any sort of minus in a situation where you can't necessarily press a button without getting frame trapped, there are situations where you can press. There are situations where you can challenge them and try to see if they can continue their pressure or not, right? It's just that the underlying understanding becomes better as you play the game more, right? So again, that can be a total like feel thing too, right? I take it back. Especially a situation where like this, where you're minus, this is totally a feel thing or a read, right? You're minus, you should not press, but you think you can get away with it because the Bison made you something else, right? Or they may not continue with what they're quote unquote supposed to do here, right? And that's the beauty of fighting games, right? Is that even though there's all these rules, they get broken all the time, right? Especially lower ranks, because no one really understands what they're doing at, like, you know, silver or gold, right? And even some levels of platinum. Some of these underlying fundamental pieces of how fighting games work, they don't really know. But what they do understand is how far I need to stand to press a button, how much damage I can do, right? like how to do the combo and how to do, you know, a setup or two after, right? Smoky. And why all that stuff works and how to formulate the game plan around that isn't quite there, but the execution and like the feel of how to play this game is there already. It's just, you know, fitting in some of the fundamental aspects so that you have an understanding of when you can break these rules. Right? So anyway, moving on from that. So the Bison does something they don't necessarily are a little bit greedy. They catch you for it, unfortunately. Now the same situation as before, right? -2 for you, so you have to guess here. I'm guessing you press a button. You don't. Good. So you just block. Perfect. The Bison fails to convert their or autopilots into their light bomb. Let's see if you punish this. Oh, that's unfortunate.
I was too far away.
Yeah, too far away. I think yeah, I'd have to check. I'm not sure what Rashid's punish counter would be there, but you probably want to lab something for this situation.
I probably standing heavy. I could probably do standing heavy kick, standing heavy punch, but I don't use heavy punch a lot, so I don't have any counters for that. Yeah, and then heavy mixer.
Yeah,
would have
right on. Right on.
Yeah.
Worth labbing though, because you win the game right then and there, if you land that, right? So anyway, get this right. Whiff, unfortunate, so back to neutral. You're still kind of disadvantaged in the corner. Bison has full resources. He has full super. No drive rush here. You have a drive rush in the tank, so let's see what happens. Jump in's blocked. The neutral jump in the corner. Oh, trade. Go for the DI. Oh, do you get supered here?
I die here, I believe, yeah.
Yeah. So that's unfortunate, right? You get low crushed by the scissor kick. And then you die from that, right? So this is a situation where your autopilot did kind of bite you in the butt a little bit here. Especially against this guy who seems to know that you like to press the crouch and medium kick. This is kind of a read on his part, right? From this situation here. Right, so you get low crushed, but... Right, so if you block in that scenario there, or it doesn't get low crushed, right, he's close enough for you to kill him, right? So it's unfortunate. It was a bit of a hard read on his part, I think, because it's kind of do or die for him there, but it ended up working out for them, right? So unfortunate. Okay. Oh. That slide sucks, man. I hate it so much.
I know he hasn't used that at all, and then
all of a sudden, boom! Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
100% unreactable. You have to be blocking, right, to be ready for that. So it's tough. Again, a hard read on his part. If you block this, it's full punish, right? So elect not to press. Good, I think. All right. So again, another situation where Bison is plus. This time, what happens is what? Right, so there's that. Oh, he whiffs the jab. Interesting. That's a crazy interaction. I didn't know that would happen. So they're plus. They try to jab. They're a little late, but it whiffs. Interesting. Okay, well, worked out. Unfortunate no conversion for your part, but it's all good, I guess. Okay, zone a little bit. Good slide. So this had been working. They only blocked it once. You went for it again. I respect it. Oh. Now, was that a... Nope, it was just straight up wake up DI. Or not wake up DI, but just straight up DI. He just went for it. Okay. That sucks, but it is what it is. I think maybe they have been DIing you. Maybe they noticed this. I don't know what game this is in your set, so this is kind of a hard read. Good.
This is game 1.
Game 1? Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a pretty wild reaction to this, right? So they either, and it doesn't look like there's an input area. They're going for a DI here, 100%. Unfortunately, you went for like a non-cancelable button here, right? So if you had gone for something else, jabs, crouch medium punch, crouch medium kick, whatever, you would be able to react to this. So like a DI like this is a hard call out to a non-cancelable move being pressed in neutral like this, right? So unfortunately it works out for them. Let's see the conversion. Spend some meter. Oh, okay. Interesting conversion. Goes for a setup here, I guess. Okay. Presses. Now you're pushed back the quarter, right? Alright. Neutral jump. Okay. So it is a bit of a habit, I think, that you have. And again, if you're not being punished for it in particular, it's okay. Let's see if you get out. Cool. Alright, so it worked, right? If you are getting punished for it, though, you should stop. But if this is working, keep doing it. Ooh, what happened there? Oh, same situation, right? Block something, try to back up, get clipped. So the unfortunate thing, again, is that if you're doing this by feel, it's hard to know that this... Like, most buttons in SF6 are actually minus, right? Like, majority of buttons are minus. So most of the time when you block something, unless they go into a cancel or a drive rush cancel of some kind, it's your turn to press, right? Most of the time. Not all the time, though. It's characters like Bison and like Aki and some other... Even Rashid, right? They have buttons that are actually plus unblocked to some degree. So, again, as you play more and more, you don't need to know exactly what it is, but it's good to know that you can't necessarily press a button against Bison's medium kick here, right? Or was it stand heavy kick? Back heavy kick? I think is what it is. I think it's back heavy kick. Yeah, that thing. Yeah. Like, it's plus, so probably can't press against it, right?
Right.
Right. Minus the situation again. Get thrown this time, right? So you elected to jab, and it gets thrown, right? So, like I was saying earlier, because of what Bison gets after that Surge kick, you do have to guess strike throw. So delay tech or just block, but both of those things are probably better. Mashing is a little tough, right? Unless they've shown you something that you can press buttons against, it's usually advisable to just kind of block and hold this, right? You could reversal too, right? If that was something you wanted to consider also. Like, let's say the Bison had been doing that to you over and over again. You use reversal here. Level 3, blow through it. Or OD Mixer, blow through it, right? Something to consider. Okay. Alright. Ooh. So that's tough, right? If you think about the meter situation here, the meter economy. You went for DI, that's 2 bars. Drivers cancel, another 3 bars. He D-revs here for 2 bars.
I live a lot of time in burnout. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
The meat is there to be used.
100%. 100%. I
Yeah.
totally agree with that sentiment. Use it to put your opponent in the corner. Use it to deal damage. Use it to reversal, whatever, right? But burnout is really, really, really tough to deal with. When in this game, right? Especially as you climb up. I think even if you're burned out here, it's probably not that bad in Diamond right now. You could probably get away with it. But you saw when you were burned out against me, how hard that was to kind of deal with, right? You have to hold all the pressure. If you try to back up, you get hit, right? So, again, using your meter judiciously, I fully 100% on board with it. Just be a little bit careful when you're low, or doing multiple bar, like 2 bar, 3 bar things in a row. Like, you had 5 bars here. Right, so there's 1, and then 3, right? So now they're ahead, right? And this right. Is a situation that is now very precarious for you, right? Hard to come back from this. Ooh, does this work? Nice. All right, so nice reversal. I think even if that was on reaction, great. Even if you're just committed to it, also great. As once you saw the drive rush, I'm assuming you started inputting it, so
I did, yeah. Like, he's been aggressive, I feel. So
perfect.
I thought it would have been a safe bet.
100% good thing, right? Because you're gonna die anyway, right? Like, if they land that hit or you block it and you have to mix up again, you're gonna die to a throw or something. Might as well, right? Deal the 4,500, burn him out, put him in a situation where now you're in control, right? Okay. Nice. Okay. Oh no! So you get caught by your own autopilot here again, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is exactly what I was saying, right? Is that if they jump, you're getting crossed up. So again, I don't hate the decision to go autopilot here, right? Maybe that's okay. Something you could consider though is you could do a different button here, right? So instead of doing the stand heavy kick, which is this huge committal button, right? Maybe you do something like this instead. Right? So you're waiting for this, right? So you see how I didn't actually get punish count there?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you're gonna autopilot that situation, again, it's totally fine if you want to do that. I have nothing against playing that way. You could potentially think about doing a faster button that you can recover in time to anti-air or at least block in that situation, right? Because think about it, right? If you press that stand medium punch and it counter hits them, you get the crouching medium kick drive rush, right? You get the conversion that you would have normally gotten. Well, maybe not as good a conversion, but you do get a conversion from it, right? And you reduce your own mental stack and you can just press whatever, right? Because at that point, let's think about it, right? So if I go back to the situation here and I want to autopilot my shimmy and I just press that button, what am I really looking out for now, right? I've committed to pressing my stand medium punch in this case, right? If it hits, great. I'll convert that into whatever, right? If it whiffs, I can react to what happened, right? Because like I push the button, I'm committed to that button. Now I'm just looking for like if it hits or they jump, right? If they block, if it hits or blocks, or if they jump or do something I can punish, right? Because then if you do that, potentially you can OD mixer here or mixer, right, from there, or anti-air of some kind. Pretty sure you can mixer here, but
Yeah,
anyway.
so my anti-air is just crouching medium punch. I don't do heavy mix though.
Okay.
I cannot get it out in time, so it fails most of the time. So I've just
Mm-hmm.
resorted to crouching medium punch for now.
Right. And I think that's a little tough, right? Or was it crouching heavy punch, right? Oh no,
Crouching medium, yeah.
this one, right?
Yep.
Okay. Let's see. Oh,
So yeah.
yeah. So that situation could have worked, right? So just go. Well, I mean, it's tough, right? But like at least you put yourself in a position where you have a chance, right? If you do stand heavy kick there and they jump it, you're done, right? So, but yeah, so okay, and I think like what I talked about here hopefully is kind of making some sense overall in terms of like where I think you could potentially go. Since you, like you said, you're a field based player, you kind of play based on autopilot and all that. What we can try to do is improve that autopilot to give you a chance to react to stuff, right? So this is a perfect situation, like those two situations I talked about here, like this one in particular, is a good one, right? You want to go for shimmy, but you don't want to necessarily react to a throw, a parry, or whatever, right? You want to just press the button, don't worry about it, and then react to what happens after. So changing your autopilot to give you a chance to beat more options is probably the way to go, right?
Okay.
That's a big one, I think, for you in particular, because I feel like if you were in a situation like you're in the situation probably a lot, right? You put someone in the corner as Rashid, you've been throwing them or throw looping them, and your read or feel is that they're going to do something different and not take the throw this time. Okay, let me do my shimmy, press my medium button, and whatever happens, happens, right? They jump, I can anti-air, right? You can anti-air if they neutral jump, you anti-air with a stand heavy kick, I think, right? Or maybe even just a crouch medium punch again. If they cross you up, you can do crouch medium punch, and it seemed to work in this situation anyway. If they parry, who cares, right? You press the crouch medium punch, you're plus, right? So it's still your turn. And if it hits them, even better, right? The only downside again is that the conversion you're gonna get is not gonna be as big, right? Like you're talking about a medium starter versus heavy starter for Rashid. Now I don't know the actual damage values there, but the conversion will look different. You have to actually practice that. But it does make it easier for you to play the game, right? Like I'm taking guaranteed damage every time I do my shimmy and they do something that my shimmy beats, right? Even if it's just hitting them out of the air, anti-airing them, that's still a win, right? Like even though they get out of the corner,
Okay.
it's still you're able to defend, like not take damage from it, and still maybe deal a little damage and put them in a situation where they have to deal with it, right? So I think there are a couple other situations where your autopilot, you know, consider what's happening and maybe change up what you're doing there, or again changing the autopilot to something else that covers more situations, right? And I think like some of that, you'll just have to, and this is the unfortunate part as the field based player, is that, you know, you have to, you have to play the game, right? Like I'm taking guaranteed damage every time I do my shimmy and they do something that my shimmy beats, right? Even if it's just hitting them out of the air, anti-airing them, that's still you're able to defend, like not take damage from it, and still maybe deal a little damage and put them in a situation where they have to deal with it, right? So I think there are a couple other situations where your autopilot, you know, consider what's happening and maybe change up what you're doing there, or again changing the autopilot to something else that covers more situations, right? And I think like some of that, you'll just have to you do have to review replays, but you don't need to know all the technical details behind it. Be like, oh, well, if I press something else in that same situation, or I change what I do after a certain button is blocked, maybe it beats more things, right? And you have to experiment with that. The other thing I'll mention is mashing or pressing when you're minus or not your turn, right? So pressing when you shouldn't be, basically. You just have to be careful. There are situations where you should press or can press and try to challenge, but most of the time, especially in Diamond, most players aren't giving you a reason to not respect what they're doing, right? If that makes sense. Like that, this Bison always pressed a button when he was plus, right? Always did something that would frame trap whatever you try to do when he's in a plus situation, right? Like the +1 from the back medium kick, or back heavy kick rather, or the +2 after the scissor kick, right? They always did something that would punish a mash, right? So if they're doing that, then you have to pay attention and be like, oh, okay, maybe I don't press right away here, right? And typically, again, it's a good idea to not press in those situations and kind of wait it out and see what the opponent's doing. Until you have a read on how they want to run their offense, it's, again, very difficult to mash and get rewarded for it, right? A lot of times you just get counter hit. So yeah, I think those would be the two main things. I didn't try to jump at you too much overall. So if your anti-airs are where they are, they could always get better, right? Everyone's anti-airs could get better. I think that's probably fine. And then on defense, again, I don't necessarily mind the neutral jumps in the corner if it's working for you. I will say that you just have to be careful on characters that'll characters with a DP or that are able to anti-air you. So cool. Yeah. Cool. So what do you think so far? Does that sound okay?
No,
Hopefully
that sounds good. Cool. I understand what you're saying.
Perfect. Yeah, cool. So yeah, that's kind of what I'll leave it at that. I suppose we've been talking for a little bit here. You have time to run it back? You want to run another set?
Yeah. My PlayStation turned off, so I left the room. So I would need an invite again.
Sure, no problem. Let me do that. All right, let's go to queue up. I'll leave the mics hot so we can talk through it. But yeah, just the two things I was thinking about. I was talking about really trying not to press on minus frames. The autopilot part, that's going to be harder, I think, to incorporate right away. But just kind of play through and feel, kind of get a feel of sense for what I'm trying to do, and just be careful about pressing when you're minus. And for Ken, it's typically after drive rush, right? Most of his buttons are minus, so just be careful when you're pressing. So, all right, go ahead and queue up, and I'll join you. Good block. Nice with punish. In Burnout, though, it's tough, right? Because Ken actually is plus on a lot of those buttons in Burnout, so. Oops. Yeah, again, I guess that's the other thing I'll mention that I probably should have, is that when you block something, try not to move right away. The delay medium kick for me is going to tag you every time, so just plant, wait it out a little bit longer than you kind of want to, or potentially challenge with your own button, right? So one of those things. But try not to move right away after something's blocked.
Okay.
Cool. Nice. Oh. Nice. Ooh. Oh, nice reversal. Oh, that's an unfortunate jump. Unfortunate timing on the fireball. Yeah.
Is what it is.
Nice parry. Nice. Oh, good setup though. Yeah, it's really hard to defend when someone's doing what I'm doing there, just kind of pressing there. So, yeah, I'm not. I wish I could tell you exactly what to do there. Like, you just have to hold it and try to out neutral me without being able to move. Right? It's tough. Nice. Nice. Oh. Oh, and that's why I don't DP that. Tried though, I tried. But yeah, I mean, if it's working, keep doing it, honestly. Nice check. Nice. Ooh, level 3. I like it. Nice. Nice parry.
Red.
Unfortunate. Uh-oh.
Oh, too late. That's why.
Oh, that's unfortunate. It would have worked though. If you had done it in time, I would have had to deal with that. So I know the results, but the result ended up the same. But I think you were paying a little closer attention to some of the situations where you actually were, weren't sure if you could press or not, and you tried to be a little bit more conservative overall in your buttons. You did take a couple of, you had some positive interactions and a couple of good whiff punishes. So again, I think like if you were to continue playing the way you're playing now and sort of make a few adjustments here or there so that your autopilot doesn't get blown up as easily, I think you'd probably do very well in ranked right now through Diamond. So yeah. Cool, man. So yeah, again, like just to sum up, I think just be careful in the autopilot situations. If you are gonna continue autopiloting, just consider changing that, especially that shimmy situation we talked about. It's probably a big one. That way you don't get blown up by jumps, as well as like your crouching medium punch to crouching medium kick thing. If that stops working, you can do something else after they block the crouching medium punch, right? So you could just walk up throw or do something else because it is your turn there, right?
Okay.
And then the other thing is just kind of mashing in minus situations. So again, you probably don't need to actually look at frame data or anything like that. But as you play the game and you try to mash in certain situations, like you try to press your 4 frame, or try to mash through, just pay attention to see if it works or not, right? I think it'll become clear what moves you can do that and what moves you can't do that, right? Like especially against Bison, you get hit by scissor kicks, you can't mash that, right? Like you'll just learn those things naturally. It'll take a little bit longer, but I think it's a little bit more interesting to a player like you that doesn't want to necessarily need or want to care about the frame data stuff currently, right? Maybe later down the road, if you change your mind, totally fine too. But for now, if you want to play the game this way, I think that's the way to get better. Is you don't need to know. You just need to get a feel for when you can and can't do things, right?
Okay.
And then the last thing is if you are gonna mash your fastest move in those situations, right? Don't mash a 6 frame or a bigger move. Mash something that is faster, right? Because the space allows you to do that. There's no range necessary or anything like that. You can just press it, right? So cool, man. Anything else before we wrap up?
No.
Cool.
Gave me a bit to think about. Well,
Yeah.
And shit. But
Yeah. Cool, man. So yeah, I'm just doing the outro. I'll meet you on the stream, so you don't, have to all that. Feel free to hang out if you like. Otherwise, if you want to take off, that's totally cool too. This will be uploaded on YouTube, probably tomorrow sometime. I have to convert it, so because I started doing these in HD now, so you'll be able to see that. But yeah, cool, man. If nothing else, you can hang out. If not, have a good night.
Yeah. No, I can totally.
Cool.
If you don't mind running a screen, that would be
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, I can run another one after this. Let me end the stream. I'll do the outro real quick, and then I'll hit you up on Discord.
Yeah.
Yeah, just hang out for a sec. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
All right, cool, guys. So this has been Sit Down and Shut Up. Thank you guys so much for watching. Appreciate it. I run this through the Fight Rise Discord. So Fight Rise is a fighting game community. They run bi-weekly events through their One Fight Stand series. So this is at master level, it's a 7-round Swiss. And if you're below master, they have pools, so you'll be running round robin. So typically it ends up being like an 8-man pool or something like that, or 8-person pool rather. So you get around 7 matches even in the lower ranks, right? They also do community events through their Urge to Fight series, right? I think there's one coming up in a couple of weeks. So they showcase the community. They also sometimes do charity streams, right? So like in December, they ran one for the Radiant Foundation, raised a bunch of money for them. Additionally, they started doing the Big League KO series. So this is another event that they do. Basically, you sign up for a 8-person pool, and then you play round robin, they're all first to 5s, and then you schedule them throughout the week. So every week you have 2 matches that you play. So it's a league format that allows you to kind of be flexible in scheduling. I think that's coming up soon. If any of these events interest you, please join the Fire Rise Discord. A lot of good players there. I run this through there. If you're interested in a session like this, again, join the Discord. Look for a channel called Sit Down and Shut Up. There'll be instructions in the pinned messages on how to sign up for a session like this, right? I'm also part of the Newbie Fight Club. So Newbie Fight Club is another Discord that caters to newer players getting into the game. There are also a lot of high-level players there too. So they run lobby nights for SF6, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. They also do some 3D fighters on Tuesdays, and they also do retro arcade games on Fightcade on Thursdays. They also run events. I think it's bi-weekly for their tournament. Again, if you're interested in any of those things, take a look at the Newbie Fight Club Discord. Oh, I have a bot command for that, don't I? Is that it? Cool. So either of those. Oh, that Newbie Fight Club link is wrong. But if you're watching this on stream or on YouTube. If you look at the description, the actual correct link for Newbie Fight Club, the Discord invite is correct. Basically, there's no dashes in the link that I posted. So yeah, if you're interested in either of those communities and want to get sets with me or any of the great players that come through there, join either of those Discords. Coaching wise, there's me, and there's also another individual named Satora who was in the stream probably, or if not, they always drop by. Another great coach, another great player. So if you're interested in any of that type of stuff, again, join one of the Discords, hit us up, and we'll get you squared away for that. Other than that, I want to say thank you guys for watching. I don't always talk to people as I'm doing the training. The only time I really interact with you guys is at the beginning and at the end. But I do appreciate everything, all the chats, the messages, the follows, the subscriptions, all that stuff. I really do appreciate it. Thank you guys so much, and have a good night.